Jonathan from Charlotte, North Carolina. I was wondering what your take is on some people saying that Adam Copeland coming back from retirement was a mistake. I've heard Jim Cornette say that him coming back has ended up tarnishing his legacy to a large degree. Meanwhile, other people like Tony Schiavone have argued that there's nothing he can do to ruin what he accomplished in WWE. And Sean Ross Sapp also said some of Copeland's booking was ultimately out of his control. Do you think Copeland coming back to wrestling was a mistake in hindsight, or do you think this is all blown out of proportion? I mean, Sean may be talking about Copeland's booking being out of his control when it comes to the Balor match at WrestleMania 39. I guarantee you, though, his booking the last couple of years, that ain't out of his control. I'm sure he has a lot of say into what, especially in AEW, into what he's doing. So to that extent, I don't think that still applies. Do I think Copeland coming back was a mistake? No, and I'll tell you why. Because he gets to go out on his own terms. This is a man who thought his career was over. He was told, you're never going to be cleared, you're never going to wrestle again, so that's it. And at the time he was told that, there was no such thing as AEW. And so in 2011, he thought, well, that's it. I just wrestled my last match. Then he had the opportunity to come back. And I can't fault the guy for coming back and wanting to end his career on his terms, instead of being forced into an early retirement because some doctor said, hey, you can't wrestle anymore. But one thing I can say is I cannot say that his return has really benefited anybody, least of all himself. It certainly hasn't really added to his legacy. I think the best thing that he's been a part of was the program with Seth Rollins. Like, the matches they had were all great. All three of them. And Edge won 2 out of the 3, by the way. So since he came back, even in WWE, he has been booked very strong. And even stronger in AEW. Has he ruined his legacy? No, I can't sit here and say that. He's able to go out there, end on his terms. He's obviously having fun, going out there and working with different people and working with his friends. And when he's done, which I think in the past he said maybe, in the next couple of years, he'll wind down and he'll get to end his career on his own terms, the way that he wants to. He got to work with his best friend again, as enemies. And soon enough, they're going to be working together again as tag team partners. I have no doubt. In fact, I'll say it right now. They're going to be the AEW tag team champions. And I think that he'll look back and say, you know what? That's pretty cool that I had the chance to come back and do all that. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's added so much to his legacy. It really hasn't. But how can I say here and say that it was a mistake for him to come back when the guy was out for 9 years and, he obviously is still passionate about this and he just wanted to come back and end things on his own terms. I can't say that was a mistake.
Hey Solo, Keish here. Since it's WrestleMania season, my friends and I were discussing what 3 WrestleMania matches would you show somebody that has never seen wrestling a day in their life. We came up with this list. Rock versus Hogan at WrestleMania 18, The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25, and Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. What would your 3 matches be?
Okay, so we're sticking to WrestleMania matches only. I would show them Bret Hart against Steve Austin from WrestleMania 13. I would show them TLC 2 from WrestleMania X7. And I would agree with you on Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns from WrestleMania 40. Because here's the deal. I think you want some variety here, right? Especially for a non-fan. You don't want to just show them a bunch of great technical wrestling matches. Hart Austin is just this great, intense fight between 2 men. The TLC match gives them that insanity that I think will really hold their attention. I would especially love to see the look on their face when Edge spears Jeff Hardy off the ladder. And last year's main event is one of the greatest that they've ever done. I've said it's like the Avengers Endgame of WWE. Even a non-fan who's not familiar with all the stories, they're going to see John Cena come out, The Rock, The Undertaker, and just all of the insanity at the end, and they're going to be hooked. And once they're hooked, that's when you can show them Savage and Steamboat and, Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels and Brock Lesnar against John Cena at Extreme Rules and John Cena and CM Punk and Money in the Bank and so on and so forth. We got the Mount Vernon Kid, Christopher Bennett from the YouTube channel. Are you going to talk about the Mandy Rose debacle that she has been spewing on her Twitter, claiming that she was a double champion, and yet she doesn't know the difference between unification and holding two separate titles? Well, you sent the question in, so I guess I will. The whole thing is stupid. You know, Mandy talks about how she makes 10 times more money doing OnlyFans than she ever made wrestling, and yet she's arguing with wrestling fans online over semantics about whether or not she or Stephanie Vaquer was the first ever women's double champion. She wasn't. She unified the NXT UK Women's Championship with the NXT Women's Championship. The moment that she pinned Blair Davenport in that triple threat match with Mako at Worlds Collide, the titles were unified as one. Stephanie pinned Julia and became a double champion at Roadblock. She defended both belts individually on TV this week. That's the difference. Stephanie is a double champion. Mandy Rose was not. This is all very dumb. Jordan from Washington, D.C. With it being John Cena's last year in pro wrestling, I was curious on what you think are his 5 best WrestleMania matches. I feel like for a guy with as long of a catalog of great matches as he has, not a lot of them have been at the biggest show of the year. What say you? Boy, you could say that again. His best matches most definitely did not happen at WrestleMania. Maybe he can change that this year with Cody. His best WrestleMania matches came against Shawn Michaels and Triple H at 23 and 22. After that, it's his match with Batista at 26, his first match with The Rock at 28, and the triple threat match with Randy Orton and Triple H at 24. I can't include the Firefly Funhouse match with Bray because that wasn't a wrestling match, right? I can't judge that the same way that I would judge any of the other matches that he's had. But those would be my 5. You know, his match with Austin Theory was terrible. His match with The Miz was awful. I mean, it would have been perfectly adequate as a television match, but as a WrestleMania main event, it was one of the worst of all time. John Cena has had classic matches at a lot of shows. He's had classic matches at the Royal Rumble. He's had classic matches at Money in the Bank and SummerSlam. Probably at SummerSlam, I would say, more than any other single event. And that includes the night that Brock Lesnar just squashed him. And 2013 against Daniel Bryan and 2016 against AJ Styles. If you want to throw in his 2011 match with CM Punk, it wasn't as good as their Money in the Bank match, but I'll allow it. He just doesn't have a WrestleMania classic the way that most other Hall of Fame guys do. Hogan, Savage, Brett, Shawn, Austin, Rock, Undertaker, Kurt Angle, even Cody Rhodes, right? They all have at least one great classic match at WrestleMania. You know, Cena's first match with The Rock was a big deal, had a big fight feel to it. I was there for it. And it did big business. I remember it well, but it's just not an all-time classic. And Molly from Toronto, Canada. You've mentioned some of your favorite movies that have wrestlers in them or star in them, but what are some of your favorite TV shows that have wrestlers in them? It could be a show you never watched before, but you just watched that one episode because a wrestler was in it, like that 70s show when The Rock was on it. Yeah, I didn't see that one, but for me, it's King Kong Bundy. King Kong Bundy was on Married with Children. That's my favorite. He actually did 2 episodes, several seasons apart, like 2 totally different characters. So the first time, it had to be the first or second season of the show. He played a member of Peg's family, Al's wife. And the family members came to visit. I think he was Uncle Otto. He was one of the family members. I remember the end of that episode. He put his head through the door. And then it was many seasons, like later in the series, they did a wrestling episode where Bud Bundy had to wrestle King Kong Bundy and he was wearing a Bumblebee costume. Bud was, not King Kong Bundy. That'd be fucking hilarious. But Bud was wearing a Bumblebee costume. And I think the premise of the episode was that he would have to wrestle King Kong Bundy and beat him, wearing the costume if he wanted to get accepted into No Ma'am, which was like the men's group that his father was part of. I think that was the premise. But yeah, so King Kong Bundy would be my favorite. And of course, I mean, how can I not mention Bret Hart on The Simpsons and Vader on Boy Meets World?